Hello, Realvolvers. This is Mark Stepp, Chief Innovation Officer here at Realvolve, and we're going to get started here in just a few seconds. We're going to wait for a few of the attendees to line up and get logged in before we get going too much. You should be able to see my screen at this point, and we're going to go through some fun stuff and answer a lot of questions. This is the Fireside chat for Realvolve. So the way you participate in this particular webinar is raise your hand, or in the control panel of GoToWebinar, there is an area there for questions. And what I do is I would encourage you to uh, type in your questions. We've already got a few questions that were supplied to us through the registration of the webinar. Of the 9 or 10 of the items that came in that way, had 6 of them all dealing with workflows. So I am going to spend a few minutes here at the very beginning going through workflows, going through the very basics of creating workflows and best practices, those types of things. But by all means, if you've got any other questions, type them into the questions area and we will kind of go through those just as quickly as possible. So, like I said, my name is Mark Stepp. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer. We are registering this, or recording this. So, if you have to leave or got your question answered, but you've got other things to do, but you want to hear some of the other ones, you will have access to this recording after we upload it back up to the website. So it'll be there. On the other end of the line, I do have Michael Fernahu. He is in charge of customer success and doing an excellent job at that. And he is monitoring these questions for me. So at times I'll have him just blurt out a few questions. So be sure to put those in there. So on the list that I got, I had a couple different ones. I want to read the 6 different ones that we've got and just kind of hit all of them all at once. So how do you automatically send emails or mass emails? I'll go over that. How do you know when a workflow is working? And we'll go over that. I'm having trouble setting up workflows. So if you're having troubles, it could be one of 2 things, just the lack of knowledge of what to do, and we're certainly going to go over that. But if you have a problem of any type, you just can't get something working, down here at the bottom of the screen in the toolbar at the bottom of the screen, there is this live chat and submit a support ticket. Use those. Those are good resources for making sure that you get questions answered. You can also go to our help screen down at the bottom. There's a help item that will take you into our help area, and we're going to go into that and just kind of show you 1 or 2 resources that would be beneficial for workflows. Is there a better way to put the workflows in chronological order? Now, I'm going to show you the order that they're in, and it might make more sense on that particular question, because it does look like they're out of order, but technically they're in an order. We are working towards making it so that they are in a better order than what they're in. So that'll be coming down the pipe for an update that's coming. Is there a way to update the last contact made from when doing an email? That particular one deals with some workflow stuff, and I'm going to show you how that goes. And then what is the best way to plan building a workflow? So all those questions all kind of came in. They were all dealing with workflows. So I just want to take these first few minutes just to go through this. So what I do whenever I'm training, we have an on-site training class that we normally do. I think there's one possibly coming up in October. It's not been set for sure yet, but I will get some details out. If not, I'll make sure everybody knows when the next one is. But we normally go through the workflow process pretty in-depthly. And in-depthly, is that a word? So what I want to do is kind of hit what we go over in that. I'm not going to hit it nearly as intensely because it gets pretty intense on that particular class, but we do have a lot of fun with it. So down here at the bottom, when there is this help item, if you will click on that help item in your screen, this will bring you into the Realvolve Help Center. So this has a lot of great resources for getting help, for doing the things that you need to get figured out within Realvolve. Now, up at the top, we got some buttons. There's a section here called Getting Started. Getting started is probably the go-to resource for you whenever you're first getting started, and it has a lot of stuff on just how-tos, how to set up the account, if you're an admin, if you're a user, if you're just learning basic stuff about the software. And at one point, we were setting this up so that it would send out pretty much every day or every other day some emails out to everybody, and letting them do just some small snippet of things. And some people got overwhelmed with just being force-fed that. So we made this resource available so you can come here and just see all the different things that you can do with Realvolve, and takes you step by step through those processes. Well, that's the training side. Above that, we have a section here for the workflow worksheet PDF. Now, this is a PDF file that you can print off, and you can handwrite stuff onto that PDF file to organize your workflow. I've also got this in a Google Sheet format. So if you click on this Google Sheet version, it will bring you to something that looks like this. Now, this is the master, and whenever you open this up, you can't edit this. This is not one that you can edit. It's mine. I can set it up, I can change it from my end, but you can't. The way you use it is you would come up here to the file section and say make a copy, and you'll make a copy, you'll give it your own name, and once you give it your own name, I created one here just a little bit earlier called My New Leads. I gave it my own name, and this would be the name of the workflow that you want to create. Now, whenever we talk about creating workflows, I typically describe it like this. You really create workflows twice. You first create it in your mind. How is it that I want to give world-class service to my customers, either as new leads, as new listings, as contracted close processes? You know, there's lots of different workflows that can be created in any different topic. Some of them deal with things that you communicate information to other people. Sometimes they're workflows that are directed all towards you and just helping you organize some kind of event or something. And we went through that process a couple weeks ago in a movie event process workflow. So, but this is the methodology that I use to kind of gather my thoughts, bring them all together so that there is something that I can just kind of use to start entering the data. Now, unfortunately, at this time, and I'm working to maybe get around this, but at this time, we don't really have a way to take what you type in here and import it into Realvolve. It's just not possible at this point. But it's a great way to at least organize your thoughts, your methodologies, your ideas, and then into one place, and then take this information. You can print it out if you want, or just use it on another screen. I've got in front of me, I've got like 3 screens. So I've got my laptop screen, and I've got 2 other screens that I put things on, and I can just look at one and do something on the other, and it works out really good. But if you can't do that, certainly you can print it off or whatever. So the way I do this is I look at the different columns and figure out what it is that I want to do. So this is going to be a new lead workflow, very basic. It's more of a linear type workflow. You could do the same type of thing if it's the listing process, if it's the closing process. It's just going to be more entailed. I just didn't want to spend a whole lot of time creating that entailed one during this process, this webinar. So the first thing that I want to do whenever a brand new lead comes into my website, they register on the website, We use some Zapier integration to bring that name into Realvolve, and it automatically starts a workflow, and I'm going to call that workflow My New Leads. The first thing that I want to do is I want to send a thank you to that registrant, making sure that they know that I appreciate them coming to my website, and making sure that we answer some very basic questions or whatever. So I'll put in a title of that activity. I'll say, okay, who is supposed to do that activity? And to help kind of set this spreadsheet up, I've got a settings screen down here that kind of drives this information. If I click on the down arrow here, there are lots of field information as far as selection choices. I'm coming in as Joe Agent, and I've got Annie Assistant as my assistant. But if I come over here to the setup screen, you can see those choices that are available. I've got choices for other things in here as well. So anytime that you need to add to those choices or whatever, you can come to the settings and add to them just so that they're there instead of just manually typing in. Now you can type them in. Say I wanted Harry Smith. You'll see a little triangle up here, red triangle, saying, hey, that's invalid. It's not part of the choices. You can do it that way if you want, just ignore the red things. But if you want to make selections all the time, just make a change in the settings. But so then I look at who's doing the activity. I choose who it is that's doing that activity within my team. Who am I doing that activity with? So this is going to be, in a majority of the time, if it's like a new lead type thing, it's always going to be that new lead or the person that I started that workflow on. I call that the workflow contact. Who did I start this workflow on? The workflow contact. So you can choose that and other party members if you need to, but in this case, I'm just doing that one. I'm going to send an email. So my action on this is just an email. When do I want to do this? Well, technically, I want to do this as soon as they register. It's going to be 0 days after the start date. The start date being today or whenever that workflow starts. 0 days, I'm just adding this number of days to the start date, which 0 days from today is today, okay? And then I put in here, what is the template that I'm going to use? And I can just call it thank you 01 or whatever you want to call it. You may not know what that is yet. You may not even have that name. You may not have that template yet, but at least you know you want to give it a name. So you can give it a name. So then I go to in my mind, I'm thinking all this up. I'm going to go to the second activity that I want to do in my workflow. So then I give it a title. I want to send an agent notification. I want to be notified whenever this lead comes in. So I want to send the text message, a text message with maybe the lead's name, number, and email address or something. I can do that within a workflow activity, send the activity correspondence to myself. In this case, it's going to be assigned to Joe Agent. Who am I doing this with? Well, technically I'm going to be sending a text message, but I'm not sending it to the workflow contact. I'm going to send it to the assigned to person. And this is really the user, the contact record of Realvolve. So I have assigned to user, which is the assigned to user here. What is it that I'm sending? I'm going to send a text message 0 days after start date. Again, as soon as it starts, I want to do that. Then I might say, well, I want to make a phone call. So I'm going to say call or phone call or whatever. And Joe Agent's going to do that again. Who's it done with? Well, I'm going to call the workflow contact. And what is it? It is a call. And when am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to say, I'm going to do this the next day. So 1 day after the start date. And in this case, there's really no template that I want to do. I could put some additional instructions if I want to, but I'm just going to leave that blank. And then we go and do the next thing. So maybe another email, follow up after call. And in this case, it is Joe's doing this. Who's it done with? The workflow contact. It is a email that I'm going to send. And I could say, at this case, this particular one, I'm going to say 1 day after the completion date. And the completion date, this is a little bit more advanced, but I want to make sure you understand that it's there. The completion date, when did I complete something? The completion date of call. So I can come over here and say call. So this way, and I might even say, maybe even, row 4 call, whatever. It's just, this is just a comment so we know what to pick. So at this point, I've got that. Maybe 1 week follow up after call. 1 week follow up. Maybe this is something I allow Annie to do. Maybe I, want to have her do some kind of touch point of some sort, and maybe it is some kind of email. Hey, just want to let you know, Joe wanted me to see how things were going. So I'm going to say 7 days after the start date. And this may be follow up week 1, whatever, you can create it. So your goal is to outline, to think up, what is this process that I'm going to do? Again, this process could be the new lead that we're doing here, but it could also be a pre-listing process. It could be a listing marketing process. It could be a contract to close process for your seller, a contract to close process for your buyer. The world's the limit on this. I mean, you really can go anywhere with the workflows. So once you've got this all set up, then, and I'm going to go ahead and close this master here, then you can take this item and use this as an instruction set for setting up your workflows. Now I'm going to move this off to another screen so I can see both these, and I'll refer back and forth to them and bring them into view as I need to, but I want to take up the whole screen here. So now we want to take that information that we just typed in, all this information, and we want to put it into a workflow. So at the top of the screen, we've got 2 choices. We've got workflow and we've got templates. Now, what I do recommend that you do is, before you actually start putting all this stuff in, create the templates first. And why do I say that? Well, in order for you to really complete this activity, it has to have a template. And if you're in the middle of setting this up and then you have to come back and create your template, then you're kind of going back and forth on screens. I prefer going in and just creating all my templates first. So the first thing that I want to do is come over here to the templates, and I want to create those templates for the ones that I'm going to do. So I'm going to click on templates here, and there's all kinds of templates in my list here. You can do a search up here, and I'm going to prefix this with my new leads. Let me just see if I have that. I don't think I do. Actually, I do have this. I used this for our class the last time. My new website leads. Okay, and I want to explain what I'm doing here. So what I normally do is whenever I'm creating a workflow of some sort, I want to kind of group workflow templates, whether it's an email or a text message, group them together so I kind of keep them all together. So if I'm going to create them, I need to create those 4 different templates. I'm going to click on New Template, Author a New Template. And in here, I'm going to give it the name. The first name that I want to give is my Thank You 01. So what I'll do, though, is I'm going to say my new leads, or my website lead, sorry, my website lead, and dash or 001. This is the first document that I'm doing. So I will prefix it with something that kind of groups them together, and then I'll give them some kind of numeric value just to keep them in a certain order. Then I'll give it a name. Okay, so Thank you, O1. Now I wouldn't have to have the O1 on there. It's just what I'm doing. And it is a contact workflow. Now, whenever we look at our workflows, we have to think about who are we directing this to? Is it a contact? Is it a property or a listing? Or is it a transaction or a closing? In this case, it's a contact. So our use with is going to be contact. We're sending this whole workflow is directed towards a bunch of contacts that's going to be our leads. The subject, just say, thank you for visiting my website. You can put in here, hello, and within a template, you can use merge fields. Merge fields you can assign to a message of some sort by using brackets, the 2 square brackets. It's going to come up with a list of fields. Now from here, the most common ones are listed at the top: the greeting, the mailing name, and the signature. And I can just select greeting and it fills in the rest of the stuff. The greeting is hello and then the person's first name, or if it's a husband and wife where they're linked together, it'll have both of their names. So it'll either say hello John if John's my new lead, or it'll say hello John and Mary if they're linked together. And then I can put in, my body here, whatever you want to put in there about thanking them for visiting the website, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm going to put in bracket, and I'm going to choose signature. Now, the signature is another template. Really not going to cover that right now, but realize that you can put in your own email signature. It's a merge field. It can merge in there and it can be sent whenever it sends the message. So I'm stubbing this out. And what do I mean by stubbing out? I'm just very basic information. I'll come back and write it later, but I've at least got my template here. I'm going to click on save. Now, since I put in the search field up here, MWL, it knows that it's searching for anything MWL and it's limiting it to just those. So I don't have to look through all my pages of all my templates. I can find the ones that I want. Then I come in here and I say, okay, I've got a couple other letters that I need to write. And since this is just stubbed out, why not make copies of them and just do it that way? Oh, let me do one more thing. So something important that you really need to make sure of, and in this case, I want to leave it as email marketing, but if you are sending any kind of marketing material, you really need to have it set via and choose either email marketing or email transactional. Email marketing is typically a marketing type email, and it will automatically include an unsubscribe link for that user or for that contact whenever it's sent, so they can unsubscribe to your mail. Now, you may not like that, but legally you need to do that. Okay, don't want you guys to get in trouble. Now, if this is a type of email that you're in the middle of a transaction of some sort and you don't want that unsubscribe feature turned on, you can use email transactional, and in which case it does not automatically insert that unsubscribe. We've also got some other how you want to send stuff. This SMS is the text message. We're going to create one of those in a second, but just realize that it's really important whether you choose email marketing or email transactional whenever you're doing this. So I'm going to just make sure I saved it and it's there. So now over here on the left-hand side, if you move your mouse over the name area, it'll show some little pop-up menus. They just kind of show up. It's also down here at the bottom, there's a copy button. Now we can click on either one, either the little 2 pages or the copy button, either one. I'm gonna click up here. It's gonna ask me, hey, what's the next email that I want to create as a copy? Well, in this case, I've got a text message. I don't wanna do that one yet. I could, but I'm gonna come down here. And for my third one, it's just a call. I don't need that, but my follow-up 1 week is one that I do need to create. So I'm gonna make a follow-up 1 week. So I'm gonna come over here and it's going to be, technically it's because there's that SMS in there, but I can number them however I want, but MWL 00, I'm gonna go ahead and call it 3 because I'll make number 2 the text message just to kind of keep them in order and say follow up week 1, which is the same name that I gave in here as a template. Okay, and then I say make a copy. So now what it does is it goes ahead and makes a copy of this, gives it a different name, and has all the same information. Great, so we've got that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and create the second item, just because it is a text message, not a email, and I'm going to have to do it a little bit different. I can't really make a copy of it. So I'm going to click on New Template, Author New Template, and say this is new lead. But in front of that, I still want to put in my MWL002 in this case. I'm going to put it in between these, just numerically, it was kind of fit that way. And again, it is a contact. The difference is on this one, it's not an email. It's going to be a text message. So I'm going to come over here to SMS, and I want to put in some information. Now, this particular one is a weird one because we're not sending the message to the lead, we're sending it to me or the agent or whoever it's receiving it, but it's the user that's receiving this, okay? So if I was to go in there and put in like greeting, for instance, I'm sending it to Joe Agent. Joe Agent was the assigned to. The greeting would then say, Joe, hey Joe. Well, I want Joe's information, maybe here a little bit, but I really want the lead's information, right? I want that workflow contacts information, the person that I started the workflow on. So what you can do is you can say, hey, you had a new lead on your website, and you can say name, and we're going to put in here bracket workflow contact, and there's a bunch of merge fields. As I type in workflow, it starts doing a search for any merge fields that have that information. So I can see all kinds of different stuff in here. And I could say workflow contact first name, greeting. In fact, I'm going to say the mailing name, because the mailing name is the full name. So I'm going to come down here and say workflow contact mailing name. So it'll say John Smith, not just John, okay? I want their phone number. And here I'm going to do the same thing, bracket. Workflow contact, again, I'm wanting the information for the contact that I started the workflow on. And I'm just going to go ahead and type some of this out. And I really want the home mobile phone, home mobile. So as you continue typing, it'll keep narrowing it down. So I want that home mobile phone. And then maybe I also, just for grins, I want to also have the email address, bracket, workflow contact. Now I could, if I wanted to, instead of starting off, I could just say home email. I could find anything that has the word home email in it, in which case, right there, workflow contact, home email. Just make sure that you're not selecting contact, home email. Contact is who am I sending this to? I'm sending it to Joe Agent. I don't want Joe Agent's email. That's my email. I want the workflow contact's email. Does that make sense? Hope so. And then we click on save. That's all I'm going to really do for now. So it's going to send me a text message that'll have Joe Smith 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 Joe at joesmith.com or whatever. So now I have my 3 templates. That's all I really wanted to do, is get those 3 templates in there. Then I can come back over here into my workflow section. Now, if you're doing this where you're kind of going back and forth, one thing you can do, you can right click on this link here and say open in a new tab, in which case you can leave your templates open and your workflows open at the same time, and you can switch between them. You can certainly do that. It's not a problem. So we started this off with MWL for my website leads. I'm going to do the same thing up here and say, do I have anything with MWL in it? No, I don't. In which case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start a new workflow. To start a new workflow, we click on Add, create a new workflow. Now, if you wanted to look at workflow items that we have in the library, you can go to the library, in which case it'll show you a bunch of lists of all the different workflows we have in our library. You can pick from some of those, install the public ones, or purchase the other ones, or install them with a key. In this case, we just want to create a new workflow. At this point now, we're going to give this thing a name. And just as this is brand new too, we've got this show me how. You can click on this show me how and it'll take you to a link to show you how to do some of this stuff. You can thank Michael on that. He's been working hard on some Walk Me stuff, and he's doing a great job at making sure you guys know what to do. In either case, the title on this, I'm going to prefix this with MWL, but that's just again to make sure that I've got things grouped together and I know what they are. I want to say my website leads. Now, why do I say my website leads versus my leads? You might have a different workflow for your website than you do for, say, Realtor.com or Zillow or whatever else that you do. It may be a different quality of lead, and maybe you want to do different things with them. So setting up separate workflows is certainly possible. Like before in the templates, we have to choose who we're doing this with. Is it a contact workflow, a property workflow, or a transactional workflow? In this case, it is the contact workflow, so we're going to choose contact. Now, it is important that you know that templates that are set up for contacts go with workflows that are set up for contacts. You cannot intermingle them. You cannot intermingle them, so don't even do that. This is the only, these two fields here, the only things I really care about. You can, if you want to, put in a more verbose description of what this does. You know, this is a special workflow just for my website leads, blah, blah, blah. You can type that in. So if you have an assistant, they can read it, they can see it, and they don't have to worry about, you know, am I really sure I want to use this one? Click on Add. So what that does is that adds the workflow as an item in my workflows list. So now I can click on this anytime and it'll bring up my list. But this does not add, all this basically did was created this title. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and my website leads. I know this is kind of redundant, but that's what that is. So, but it did not put in any of these things. So what we've got to do is start putting these items in there. We're gonna have 5 different items in here. So to add new items, you come down here and say add another activity to this workflow. You click on that and it's going to start asking you questions. What are the questions? Well, they're almost verbosely through this, or identical to this, not verbose, almost identical to this. So I could, if I wanted to, just copy and paste some of these items, in which case, just so that I don't have to retype everything, I may go ahead and do that. But I'm going to come up here, title, send thank you. Who does it? Joe Agent. Same question here. Assign to. Who am I doing it with? And on a contact workflow, the default, the main choice is workflow contact. So you don't normally have to change this. We will for our text message, but you can normally just leave that alone. When am I sending this out? 0 days after start date. Lo and behold, 0 days after start date. So I'm just kind of putting this type of stuff in there. The type, the action type here, I really ought to call that action, or type, not action. I'm going to change this here to being an email. There's nothing magical about that field. It's just a category of an activity. And you can do some filtering to say, hey, show me just my emails or show me just my to-dos. So it's good to have that selected, but it doesn't do anything magical. What is magical about our workflows is that if that's all you did, you could create a pretty good to-do list, but it wouldn't do anything for you. What really brings Realvolve together and makes it so powerful is that we can create actions. So an action, you can actually create more than one action on each activity, but we're only going to create one on this. So the action on this, in this particular case, is that we do want to send an email. We can send a message. Since we can create multiple actions on an activity, we do need to give this action a title or a name of some sort. And it doesn't matter what you name it, it's just your own personal preference. But I'm going to say send email, just as a title. In which case I'm going to say either send manually with preview, send without preview, send automatically, which basically says, okay, the first two says send manually. Those are if you want to have the activity come up on your screen as a reminder, but you don't want it to automatically send anything. You want to be reminded to send it, and then you'll send it yourself, and you can either preview it before it goes out, or you can just send it, as it's going out. You just click on run and send, and it'll just send it. You don't have to worry about previewing it before, but this just gives you an option to preview before. The automatically means, hey, go ahead and send this out automatically whenever it's due, at whatever time it's due. Okay, so there is a timer-based item here on this one, so it could, if it's set to send automatically, and it's during the day, it may take 4 or 5 minutes to send it before it actually goes out. We have another option called send immediately, and for these first two items, this is what I want to use. And send immediately means soon as this activity is placed on my calendar, send it out. Do not pay attention to my schedule at all. 0 days after start date, it really doesn't even worry about that. It just sends it out. So just kind of a blast it out and don't worry about it. Why do we want to do this? Well, we want this to be an autoresponder, basically. So what are we going to auto-respond? We're going to auto-respond with an email. And then it says, okay, which email template do we want to use? Well, in this case, we want to use anything that starts with MWL. We want to bring that up. So this is a kind of the reason why I like to put the codes in there. I can get them all grouped together. I don't have to go searching for them, whatever. The one that I want to use, this very first one, is thank you 01. Now, there's an option here to say, update the last email date. If you want to do that, you can check that. And then on that contact, whenever that email gets sent to that contact, it does automatically update that last email date, which can be good. Some people, want that. Some people don't, because it kind of depends on whether it's a marketing thing or more of a personal thing. So you can choose how you want to do that. If you want to CC or BCC any party members, maybe you want to CC the connected relationship or the spouse, if there is one, you can certainly do that. In this case, I'll go ahead and leave that on there. There are some other items that you can do. If you wanted to, you can come in here and add a new tag to this contact and say, yeah, I want to add a tag of new lead. Tag it with whatever you want. And then there's other options for starting additional workflows. So one action can do multiple things. In this case, it's going to send an email, it's going to add a tag, it could remove a tag, it could also start other workflows. In this case, I'm not going to start any other workflows. I'm just going to click on save. And what that does is that creates the action. And again, I can create another action just by clicking on create action and put it in there and click on add. So it adds that activity to my workflow. So now I've got my first one on there. Now I'm taking a lot of time to explain this. Once you actually get in here, you can really knock these things out rather quickly. Once you've got the idea here, this is the critical part. Once you've got your idea on how you want it designed, then you can just start going down the list. Okay, so I'm going to add another activity. In this case, it is the send agent notification. I'll copy and paste that in there. Who does it? Joe Agent. This is just going off my list. Pick an arrested party. The contact assigned to Realvolve user. So I'm assigned to agent or contact. So what this does for this particular selection, instead of sending it to the workflow contact, it says, hey, look at who the user is this is assigned to, Joe Agent, and go grab the contact record for this user. So it goes and looks in your contacts database for that and sends to that contact instead of your lead. Pretty straightforward, but it's kind of worded weird. When do we want to do this? 0 days after start date. That one again probably isn't as critical because we're going to send it immediate like the other one. The to do here, it's a text message. You've got other options for doing things. I'm not really going into any of that because it's really just kind of a basic one. We've got a lot of other training on how to deal with this. In this case, I'm going to click on created action and give this one a title, send text message. In this case, I want to send a message immediately, again, because I want to be notified immediately that the lead came in case I want to call them real quick, right? What kind of message am I sending? In this case, it's an SMS message. And which message am I sending? Again, it is the MWL, new lead. I don't want to do anything else. I'm just going to click on save and then add that one. Okay. So now, one thing that just happened is I added this one after I added this one. Why are they in this order? Well, they're in this order because alphabetically send A comes before send T, send thank you. But I want these to go in a different order. So I do want to show you this. You can edit any activity and you can adjust which order that you want it to happen on if it happens on the same day. So both of these happen on 0 days after the start date. And whenever you look at these now, this one will be first, this will be second, even though they're in the same start date. Now what we do is we order these by the milestone date and then the number of days from that milestone date. So we group everything by milestones. In this case, everything's going to be start date, but you could have list date, you could have expiration date, those types of things, and anything that's a particular milestone group is going to be grouped. Anything that says 0 days after will be on this one and below. Anything 1 day before and above would be above this list. So it puts them in an order. It's just that they're grouped by their milestone. That was one of the questions about ordering. I do plan on adjusting which milestones get in which order very soon. Okay, so our next item in this is the phone call. We want to make a phone call in this case and go through this process. Now, I may not go through, I mean, we're getting real close to some ending time, so I don't really want to kind of eating up all the time here with just this. So Joe's going to make the phone call. It's still with the workflow contact. It is a phone call, so I'm just click on call. And when do I want to do this? We had said that we wanted to do this 1 day after the start date. Okay, so 1 day after start date. So I'll go ahead and do that one and click on add. So I've added my third item to my list. Since this day is after the zeros, now it's below the list, no matter what number I would have put in that order field, okay? My fourth activity was a little bit of a weird one. And why is it weird? Well, it's weird because we said we want to do this follow-up call, follow-up after the call, 1 day after the completion date of the call. It's an email. Oh, you know what? We should have still, even though we said it was that, it's still an email. So we should have created that email. This is a case where we could have gone in and created another template, but we didn't. But that's fine. We can add it afterwards. It's not a problem. And follow up after call. So technically this is number 3 and that's number 4, but it doesn't really matter really, how those are set up. So in this case though, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. We'll say follow up after call. So I'll paste that in. Who am I doing this with? Still with the follow up, the workflow contact. It is an email. And when am I doing this? And this is the kind of the it's neat. It's not just weird, but it's cool. So I'm going to say 1 day after the completion date. We chose completion date. The completion date of what? Of that item number 4 call, right? Well, If I come down here, it says completion. There's a choose activity option that's now available. So I can come down here and I can choose call. So now this activity is not going to be given a date until after I've completed my phone call. If I have that phone call for 1 day after, maybe I don't get to it 1 day after. Maybe I get to it 2 days or 3 days after. Okay, once I complete it, maybe 2 days after, then it says, okay, I want this follow-up to come 1 day after the completion of that call. So now it's going to be on the 4th day, technically, if I wait a couple days, or 3rd day, wait a couple days, and then complete that first one. Now this one's going to happen. So then I can come in over here and say, well, you know, I missed an email. I need to do another follow-up. So I'm just going to grab this one, make a copy of this. MWL004. Just, again, it doesn't have to be, say, follow up after call, after first call, or, you know, whatever you want to create that as. So I create that that template. Now I can come back over here and I can say actions and say send email. What am I doing? When am I going to? I'm going to set this as being send automatically. Now, why am I doing that compared to immediately? Well, I don't want it to go out immediately, otherwise it would go out on that 0 days. I want it to go out automatically after I've made 1 day after I've made my phone call. So I don't have to worry about it. I just want it to be sent out. You could say, well, maybe I want to put some stuff on that email before it gets sent out, so I want to do it with preview, and you can edit it before it goes out. So you can certainly do that if you want, but I want to send mine automatically. It is an email, and in here, MWL, follow up after call, and then click on save. So I've got all my stuff in here, click on add, and then, okay, I'll go ahead and do my last one. This one was the 1 week follow-up. So I'm gonna come over here, click on 1 week follow-up. This case, it's Annie Assistant that's doing it, not me. We'd chosen for this, we'd said, well, Annie needs to do this one. So you can assign that. Now you can assign to party members of transactions and stuff as well, but in this particular case, because it's an automatic workflow, it just gets started whenever the lead comes in. We don't want to have to pick who are our roles, who's playing these roles. Who's the interested party? I'm sending an email to the workflow contact. That one's fine. This one, we're sending it out 7 days. Now, I could choose 7 days after start date, or I could say 1 week after. It doesn't matter. Same number. So if I wanted to, I could say 1 week after. So you have the option of days, weeks, months, or years after the start date. And again, this is an email. We want to create our action. Our action is send email. And again, this is one where I just want it to automatically go out. This could be one where you want Annie to edit before it goes out, but in either case, it's going to be Annie seeing it on her calendar, not you, because you've assigned it to Annie. It is an email message, and MWL, in this case, it's the 1 week follow-up. And maybe I want to update that last email and click on save. So that finishes out that activity. I click on the add to add that activity. Now I've got 5 activities on my workflow. Okay, the same 5 activities that I brainstormed and thought here. Okay, now let's say, for instance, we have a lead that comes in. I'm gonna say Robinhood came in, and I need to see if there's any activities in here right now. I'm just gonna delete all these. So let's say, for instance, and I'm not going to go over Zapier. Zapier, there's a whole webinar stuff. There's a lot of training stuff, and I'm going to go over that real quick as well. But let's say Robinhood hopped on my website, filled out some basic information about them, and Zapier grabbed that record information, put it into Realvolve. It automatically started my workflow, and I'm doing it manually, but MWL basically all of this, the next few steps that I'm doing, are all done automatically through Zapier. Okay, so it automatically, in a Zap, you can have it automatically select which workflow you want. It will automatically say, yes, I'm going to take all of these. It says, yes, today's the start date. And it says, yes, these are all the people that are involved. It doesn't go into any selection of any of those fields. It just blasts everything. So then it says, okay, we're creating the workflow, and boom, my workflow has just been created. Now, what it has done is, if I, and ignore, actually, let me just ignore these. If this was a new lead, none of these notes would probably be in here. Actually, there could be if it came in from a Zap, but I want to click on the radar tab just to refresh this. So in this case, it sent a thank you for visiting my website email, and said, hello, Robin and Marion. So in this case, if I look at my contact, Robin Hood is married to Marion. So that greeting field pulled up and stuck Marion in there as well. And then there's the, my body here. You would put whatever you want. And then here's that signature that I created. So the signature's put in there for me automatically. If I go to my email, all that's going to be there. So I can go to my activities, and I can take a look at what activities have either been completed or incompleted. Over here, I can say, okay, which ones have been not completed yet? They're incomplete. Well, I've not done my call. It's going to be due on the 2nd. I've not done any of the other ones. But you look down here, this follow-up after call, you'll see it doesn't have a date. Why does it not have a date? Because this one's not been given and it's not been completed yet, right? So if I said one day after this call, well, on the 2nd, if I complete this activity, if I check it off and it sends out that email automatically, or actually this is the call, it tells me, make this phone call. I call them, I check it off to mark it as completed. It will then come down here and say, hey, they completed this on the 2nd, add 1 day, so it's going to be on the 3rd, add the 3rd to the date on this, so now this one's going to be the 3rd. If I don't call them until the 4th or the 3rd, if say I don't call them until the 3rd, then this activity would be 1 day after the 3rd, and it'd come up on the 4th. So it automatically backfills the dates and does the adjustments for you. So that's great news for you. You don't have to worry about anything. And that's the whole idea about workflows, is once you get your plan in place, you're not having to think. All you have to do every morning is come to your radar, technically. Now I've got a bunch of stuff in here it's just bogus stuff. But your whole goal every day is to come in here and see what it is that I've got to do today. And I'm gonna delete all these extra things. I've got a lot of stuff in here that we just don't need. So as activities are, I thought these were part of workflows. They're not. As you have things to do on your calendar, they're going to be listed here under activities. All you have to do is make sure that you check them off and to complete them, and it'll take them off the list every day. So your goal every day with workflows, you've got multiple workflows going, you've got things happening all the time, but all you have to do is worry about what's in my activities. What do I got to do today? If it's red, it's past due. You didn't do it, or if you did, you didn't mark it done. So you got to make sure you mark everything done. As you mark them done, then it'll knock them off the list. Okay, I'm gonna delete all. There's some multiple workflows on here. These are just some things that I had for sample purposes. See if I can find actually no, I want them to be shown because the 2 things that were done automatically. Now, if I look at, let's say, Joe Agent, if I come over here to Joe Agent, and that's the contact that was supposed to receive the text message. If I go to his radar, and here's the text message he received. Hey, you had a new lead on your website. The name, Robin and Marion Hood. Phone number, they didn't enter phone number, but they did enter their email address. So, some basic information there. Now you can email them or do whatever you want. So that's what workflows do and why they're so powerful. And pretty much, I think I covered pretty much all those questions that were part of that.
Hey, Mark, can
yes.
you answer kind of 60-second version, what is Zapier? And then this would be a great opportunity to point to training.realvolve.com, learning more about it.
So Zapier is a third-party integration tool. Now you can set up a free account and you can have up to 100 Zaps per month. That basically means you could get 100 leads per month and it not cost you a cent if it's basic ones. They do have some stipulations. If you're using certain types of Zaps, you do have to pay for an account for them, but most of the time you can use a free one. But what it does is it allows you to integrate Realvolve with thousands of other types of applications, other programs that are out there. You can set up a Zap that says, hey, whenever some goes into my MailChimp, automatically add them into Realvolve. Or if I have something coming from a Facebook lead, it's a premium one, which means you do have to have a paid account. But if I have a Facebook lead, automatically add it into Realvolve. There's thousands of different types of applications that can integrate with us. So we do have additional training. If you go out to training.realvolve.com, we have a site that allows you to get more training similar to what I just did, but we do have one specifically on Zapier. And in Zapier, there is how do I do different ones? How to set up a Zapier for Zillow, for Real Geeks, for Realtor.com. These types of things have additional training and how-tos. So I see the one question. So I create a separate Zap account and then integrate with Realvolve. Yes, you'll create a Zap account, and you need a Zap instruction basically for each different type of source that it's coming from. So if you've got Zillow and you've got Realtor.com and maybe you've got a website, that would be 3 separate Zaps that you would create, and leads can come in from any of those 3 sources, up to 100 leads from those 3 sources without you even being charged, unless it's a premium one. So it's a good deal, and it's a great way to send information back and forth. You can actually send information from Realvolve to other sources if you need to, or bring it in from. I know a lot of people use Carrot website. They have a Gravity Forms site, in which case you can uh, interact with Gravity Forms to bring your forms in from your website. There are lots of other forms and items that are in there. So
questions initially were just more on how to get started and next steps. That's phenomenal. For some people, if you're on the webinar and some of the workflow stuff saying, hold on, just back up, I'm still trying to get my name and the account information, then let me pitch something for you. We do have a welcome call that we do 4 times a week. And so that could be something really good for you to attend. Just learn the basics of getting your account set up, kind of a tour of the account, some really basic things that you need to start with. And so I'll throw that down on the chat if that's something you feel like you would want to attend. Mark, you got some other ideas on how people need to start out as their first learning the system?
Yeah, just training.realvolve.com. Coming to this site, sign up. You do need to sign up. There's a sign up section. If you have any problems clicking on sign up, reach out to our support team. We can get you set up. But we've got trainings on setting up workflows. There's a building blocks that helps you do. This is a little bit more advanced, but it helps you really dig into workflows. The key concepts would be excellent for you to go through. It's really, kind of getting around in Realvolve, and then how do you add contacts? The contact database one is great for just adding a new contact. What are the different fields? That type of stuff. But if you've got properties for your new listings, transactions for your closings, there's a workflow section, creating templates. All of these are out there. They're free. You can use them and train on those however you like. So great stuff there. Anything else? We've come to the kind of the end of our time. Michael, was there?
I think we're good.
All right. Well, if you do have any additional questions, again, reach out to our support. either live chat during business hours or submit a support ticket if it's after hours, our help or our training. So we're here to help you. We want to make sure that you succeed, because if you succeed, we succeed. That's what we want. So everybody, thank you so much for attending today's Fireside Chat, and have a great rest of your week. If there's anything we can do for you, let us know, okay? Have a great day. Bye.